you about a thing, and whether or not you should actually buy that thing. Is the first true open world Star Wars game. Or, more specifically, 5 worlds, 3 of which are open maps, 1 is an explorable city map, and another is a part of scripted story sequences. The open maps do offer plenty of exploration, with towns, caves, secrets, side quests, and random events. The same goes for the planetary orbits in the game, which offer their own maps as you fly around. You take the role of Kay Vess, a roguish outlaw who has been working some questionable jobs her whole life, as she gets caught up in a messy situation, leaving her with unwanted attention.
Stop right there!
Her goal is to build a team for a heist that will set her up for life, meaning she'll be able to finally disappear. Accompanied by her trusty companion Nix, Kay will be travelling across these worlds to find, help, and recruit each member of the team she needs for the job. And you also have ND5 back on the ship, a combat experienced droid who has nothing but love and care for Kay.
ND5, I might die in a cave.
Okay.
Between all of the recruiting more criminals and avoiding people collecting on your bounty, you'll be out there exploring and taking on more quests. Or probably committing more crimes. There are a lot of quests that will lead to treasures, new gear, or meeting some cool characters with interesting stories. But I do love how much some lean into the rogue mindset of Kay. She's reluctant to deal with the rebels, as she really can't stand their heroics, and instead she'll just go and steal the taxes that the Empire has been collecting. Not to give back to anyone, just to keep. There are a lot of decisions you can make throughout your adventures, and most of the time they will have a consequence, mainly on your reputation with the 4 different criminal syndicates: the Crimson Dawn, the Pikes, the Hutts, and the Ashiga clan. Take on jobs, pit them against each other, steal from under their noses, double-cross, betray, whatever, it's up to you. Just be prepared for some angry reciprocation if you get in anyone's bad books.
You cannot escape the hive.
Easy.
You can always mend relationships with these factions, and you should expect them to fluctuate a lot during your time with the game. Except the Pikes. I feel like I've been hated by them ever since the beginning. I don't know why. But I have no intentions of doing right by them just yet, so oh well. Quests are also handled a little differently in general. You won't have a big exclamation point telling you who's giving you a task. Instead, you'll just have to come across people to chat to, finding some really hidden quests that make walking around towns and exploring all the nooks that much more worthwhile. You also have brokers who represent syndicates based on where they're located, who can give you generated missions within a planet, perfect for mending those broken relationships. The syndicate ones, not with ND5.
I'm heading out.
Good.
You may also come across intel, which will show up in your quest log and lead you towards a quest, location, or secret. Some can even be significant gear upgrades or abilities, so it's always worth checking out. The core gameplay is going to encompass shooting, stealth, more shooting, riding a cool speeder, climbing some ledges, more shooting, taking on shady jobs, flying a ship, shooting while riding a cool speeder, or petting Nix. Or shooting Nix. Speaking of Nix, he can be a huge help as you play the game. You'll be able to send him to press a button, distract an enemy, collect an item, sabotage an alarm, or even just ping enemies in the vicinity. This sort of mechanic is great at enhancing the abilities of Kay without the use of another Star Wars droid companion or magical force powers, and makes it feel a lot like Watch Dogs 2. And yes, that's a good thing. The first hour of Star Wars Outlaws is pretty straightforward and introduces you to things nice and quick. After a brief cutscene with the main antagonist and some syndicate members, we're straight into the grimy lives of Kay and Nix. She is, of course, straight to working on some shady jobs. You'll walk the dark and troublesome streets of Canto Bight, with plenty of back alleys, disreputable crooks, and loud bars. With some dealings and connections, Kay gets caught up in a job she was reluctant to be involved in, and without divulging too many details, it doesn't go well. Soon after, she's stranded on Tashara, a new moon created for Star Wars Outlaws, with a broken ship and very little to her name. This is where the game begins to open up. Now, it'll be a few hours yet until you can really leave Tashara properly, and a little while until your ship is even functioning, but this time spent grounded is to, well, ground you into what this game offers. Make some money, find some secrets, take on quests, and do some syndicate jobs while inadvertently angering another syndicate. Eventually you'll be able to leave, with each planet offering the same sort of things across their own environments, and you can freely come and go from each planet to take on what it is you want to do next. Towards the end of the Tashara tutorials is where the story will pick back up, and the real goal of the game becomes clear: a grand heist.
Great.
Set out to recruit each crew member for the job, which, while suggestions are offered by ND5, can be done in any order. Each planet has so much to offer, and while you can always return at a later date, it's worth sticking around on whatever planet you decide to visit. Kajimi, the explorable city as opposed to a full map, is suggested as the first stop after Tashara, and honestly, it's worth listening to. It keeps things on a more manageable scale while you continue to learn the ways of the game. But hey, you do you. Tatooine is a pretty cool map, so I wouldn't blame you for going there first. But how long is Star Wars Outlaws? Speaking from my own experience, I finished the game's story in about 25 hours. That's with a good mix of some side quests, exploration, and seeking out upgrades. You could probably do it a fair bit quicker if you were purely chasing down the main quests and nothing else, but that's down to how you want to play it. There is a lot more to the game, however. Even now, I still have so many things in my quest log, more gear to unlock, more syndicate business to get mixed up in, and even more exploration of some areas I had marked for myself on the maps. Realistically, I'll probably spend a while yet taking on other stuff in the game, inching closer to that 40 or 50 hour mark. And then if you really get into playing Sabak, well, who knows. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't really fun to play. Okay, I might go over the 50 hour mark. And what about price? Well, the standard base game will cost £70, while the gold edition costs £105 and the ultimate edition costs £120, which isn't cheap. £70 is about the standard nowadays for full price AAA games, which is a whole conversation in of itself. The higher editions both include the season pass and offered 3 days early access to the game. And the Ultimate Edition has a few more extras in there, like outfits, skins, and more stuff for the Sabak minigame. The 3-day early access period is not only incredibly expensive, but a bit of a mess at the moment thanks to some supposedly broken saves on PS5 that required early access players to restart their saves, coming from Ubisoft itself. I'm not too sure what the issues were, and I've been playing for a few weeks on PS5 with no progression block, but needless to say the whole situation is a bit of a disappointment for a lot of early access players who got caught up in that. But the ultimate question. So is Star Wars Outlaws worth playing? Well, now that the whole £120 early access stuff is out of the way and you can play right away for just the base game, let's break it down. The story in Outlaws is good, with some really great characters to accompany you across the adventures. It's by no means a master of storytelling or anything to that standard, and the facial animations and lack of cutscene variety can sometimes leave it feeling a little lacking, but overall, it's enjoyable and I'm interested to see more of these characters in the future. The gameplay was something I was worried would get quite repetitive before playing it, but now it's actually something I want to play a lot more of. I often struggle to keep playing an open world game once the story is done, unless it really compels me, and something about the things Outlaws offers, the locations, the syndicates, it just makes me excited to jump back in and carry on doing all that stuff. I don't think it's anything phenomenal, but it's fun. The ship gameplay is great too, and while it's a little less frequent than you may expect, especially if you fast travel rather than fly manually, the majority of it will come from going out of your way to willingly explore those space environments. But of what there is, it's super fun. Not quite as simulatory as something like Starfield, but not as simplistic as something like No Man's Sky. It's a nice in-between of arcade-esque gameplay that brings you into the action. And of course, you've probably heard or seen some glitches from the game posted already. Now, I haven't really run into anything like that in my time with the game, certainly nothing significant or that I can note, but that's not to say those things don't exist. I think there's some exaggeration in the fact that you'll see those things posted and blow up, especially with the preconceptions of the game that means most light is a bad light. Again, there are glitches, but it's probably nowhere near as bad or as frequent as you may think, and there's always the hope of patches. Something we really have to depend on for almost every game nowadays. Star Wars Outlaws is a good game. I know, that's not something you hear often, even though the game comes out properly today as of posting this video, and opinions seem to be set in stone months ago despite that. But hey, that's how it goes for Star Wars now, right? But yeah, it's a good game. Is it a great game? No, it's not. I personally love it and think it's really fun, but it's definitely not anything exceptional for the majority, even if there were no preconceptions. But still, I have to recommend it if it's something you're interested in. Whether that's right now or when there's a sale, that's up to you and how much you want to play it. But either way, I would say it's a good buy. Not a great buy, and not just because that doesn't work as a play on words.